If you grew up in the 1950s, you know that the best meals weren't always at home. Sometimes they were on the side of the highway, in a little building with a neon sign that buzzed and flickered in the dark. A place that smelled like coffee and bacon and possibility. The Roadside Diner. It wasn't fancy. It wasn't trying to be, but it was something better than fancy. It was real. You'd see it from the road, a low-slung rectangle of chrome and glass, glowing like a spaceship that had landed in the middle of nowhere. The sign out front would say something simple: Joe's, the Blue Moon, Mel's Diner, and underneath, usually in cursive neon, open 24 hours. That was the promise. No matter when you showed up, no matter where you were coming from or where you were going, the diner was open, waiting, ready. You'd pull into the gravel parking lot, tires crunching, and climb out of the car, stretching your legs after hours on the road. The air would smell different depending on where you were. Desert dust, ocean salt, pine trees, but underneath it all, the same smell. Fried onions, fresh coffee, pie. The door would jingle when you pushed it open. A little bell attached to the frame, announcing your arrival. And inside, the world was warm. The counter ran the length of the room, shiny chrome edging and a formica top that had been wiped clean 1,000 times that day. Swivel stools lined up like soldiers, their red vinyl seats patched here and there with tape. Booths along the windows, same red vinyl, same well-worn comfort. The jukebox sat in the corner, glowing with colored lights, playing something by Hank Williams or Patsy Cline. Not too loud, just loud enough to fill the spaces between conversations. And behind the counter, the heart of the operation, the grill, you could see everything. The cook, usually a guy in a white paper hat and an apron spotted with grease, working the flat top like a maestro. Eggs cracking, bacon sizzling, burgers flipping, hash browns spreading out in a perfect golden circle. The sounds, oh, the sounds, the hiss of something hitting hot metal, the scrape of the spatula, the clatter of plates, the ding of the bell when an order was up. It was a symphony, and it made you hungry just listening to it. Sit anywhere you like. Hun, the waitress. She'd call you hun or sweetie or sugar, and it didn't matter if she'd never seen you before in her life. That's just how it was. She'd be wearing a uniform, usually a pastel dress pink or mint green or pale yellow, with a white apron tied around her waist and a little white cap pinned to her hair. Her feet would hurt. You could tell by the way she walked, but she'd smile anyway, because that was the job, and she was good at it. You'd slide into a booth, the vinyl squeaking under you, and she'd appear with a pot of coffee in one hand and a menu in the other. Coffee, you'd nod, and she'd flip over the thick ceramic mug that was already sitting on your table, pour it full of dark, steaming coffee, and set the pot down with a thunk. I'll give you a minute to look over the menu, but you didn't really need a minute, because every diner menu was pretty much the same, and that was part of the beauty. Breakfast served all day. That was the rule. It didn't matter if it was 6 in the morning or 11 at night. If you wanted eggs, you could have eggs, 2 eggs any style, bacon or sausage, toast or biscuits, hash browns or grits, depending on where you were. Coffee, juice, more coffee, or pancakes, big, fluffy, golden, stacked 3 or 4 high, butter melting on top, syrup pooling in the grooves. Sometimes they'd throw in a couple strips of bacon on the side, just because. And if it wasn't breakfast you wanted, there were burgers, always burgers. Thick, hand-formed patties cooked on that flat top until the edges were crispy and the middle was juicy. Served on a soft bun with lettuce, tomato, onion, pickle, cheese if you wanted it. A side of fries, real fries, cut from real potatoes, fried in oil that had been used just enough to make them perfect. Or a club sandwich, triple-decker, turkey, bacon, lettuce, tomato, mayo, held together with toothpicks and cut into triangles. A mountain of food that you'd tackle one piece at a time. Or meatloaf, pot roast, chicken fried steak with cream gravy, blue plate specials that changed every day, written on a chalkboard behind the counter in looping cursive. And pie, always pie. The pie case sat on the counter, a rotating glass display filled with slices of heaven. Apple, cherry, pecan, lemon meringue, chocolate cream, coconut, each one perfect, each one made that morning or the night before, if you were lucky. You didn't ask if the pie was good. You could see it was good. You just had to decide which one. The waitress would come back, pencil poised over her order pad, and you'd tell her what you wanted. I'll have the number 3, eggs over easy, bacon, wheat toast, and keep the coffee coming. She'd scribble it down, tear off the slip, spin on her heel, and clip it to the rotating order wheel by the kitchen window. Order in, and the cook would grab it without looking, glance at it, and get to work. You'd sit there, warming your hands on the coffee mug, looking around. Truckers would be hunched over the counter, forks in hand, plowing through plates of food. They'd know the waitress by name. She'd know how they took their coffee. There was a rhythm to it, a familiarity. Families in the booths. Kids coloring on placemats with crayons the waitress brought over. Parents looking tired but content, grateful for a hot meal they didn't have to cook. Salesmen in cheap suits, spreading maps across the table, planning their next stop. Young couples, sitting close, sharing a basket of fries, whispering and laughing. And always, the solo travelers, the ones who'd been driving for hours, who'd been chasing something or running from something, and who'd found this little island of light in the dark. The diner didn't judge, it didn't ask questions, it just fed you. And sometimes, that was exactly what you needed. Your food would arrive fast, faster than you'd expect, because the cook knew what he was doing, and everything was made to order, right there in front of you. The plate would land on the table with a solid thunk, heavy, ceramic, hot to the touch, piled high. Those eggs, cooked exactly how you asked, the yolk still runny, perfect for dipping your toast. The bacon crispy, just the right amount of chop. The hash browns golden and crunchy on the outside, soft in the middle. And you'd eat, really eat, not scrolling through your phone, not watching TV, just eating, tasting, savoring. The toast was always perfectly buttered. The coffee was always hot. And if your cup got anywhere close to empty, the waitress would appear out of nowhere with the pot, top you off. She didn't wait for an answer, just poured. The food was simple. But simple done right is better than fancy done wrong. And diners understood that. They didn't need foam or reductions or microgreens. They needed eggs that tasted like eggs, coffee strong enough to wake the dead, pie that reminded you of your grandmother's kitchen, and they delivered, every single time. If you were there late, at night, really late, 2 or 3 in the morning, the diner took on a different quality. The lights seemed brighter against the darkness outside. The coffee tasted stronger. The conversations were quieter, more honest. Night shift workers would come in, still in their uniforms. Cops, nurses, factory workers, people who lived when the rest of the world slept, and the diner was their place, their refuge, the one spot that understood that life doesn't stop at 5 o'clock. You'd sit at the counter, eating a slice of pie, listening to the low murmur of voices, the clink of silverware, the hum of the cooler, and outside, the highway would stretch endlessly in both directions, empty, dark, but you were here, in the light, in the warmth, and for a moment, that was enough. When you finished eating, the waitress would tear off your check from her pad and lay it face down on the table. No rush, hun, and she meant it. You could sit there as long as you wanted, finish your coffee, have another cup, watch the world go by outside the window. The check would be reasonable, more than reasonable. A full meal, eggs, bacon, toast, hash browns, coffee for less than $1, a burger and fries for 75 cents, pie for a quarter. You'd leave exact change on the table, plus a tip. Not a percentage calculated on your phone, just what felt right. An extra quarter, 50 cents if the service was good, $1 if you were feeling generous. And the waitress would pocket it with a smile and a thanks. Hun, you drive safe now. The door would jingle on your way out. You'd step back into the night, or the early morning, or the blazing afternoon, full, satisfied, ready for the next stretch of road. And as you pulled out of the parking lot, you'd glance back at that little building, glowing like a beacon, and you'd think, I'll remember this place. And you did. You remembered it for decades. Because roadside diners weren't just about food. They were about connection, about feeling like you belonged, even if you were 1,000 miles from home. They were about the waitress who called you hun and meant it. The cook who took pride in flipping your eggs just right. The coffee that was always hot. The pie that was always good. They were about sitting next to strangers who became, if only for an hour, a little less strange. They were democracy in action. Everyone was equal at the diner. Didn't matter if you drove a Cadillac or hitchhiked. Didn't matter if you were wearing a suit or dungarees. If you had money for a meal, you were welcome. The diner was America. The real America. The one that lived between the coasts, along the highways, in the small towns and the big empty spaces. It was where deals were made over coffee, where teenagers went after the Friday night game, where families stopped on vacation, kids sticky with syrup, parents grateful for the break, where truckers traded stories, where heartbroken lovers nursed their wounds with pie and sympathy, where lonely people found, if not company, at least the comforting presence of other human beings. The roadside diner was a portal. Step inside, and you stepped out of your life for a moment, out of your worries, your problems, your endless responsibilities. You were just a person, hungry, human, looking for a hot meal and a kind word, and you got both. Things changed, of course. They always do. The interstates came, bypassing the old highways. The fast food chains spread like wildfire, promising speed and consistency over character and care. The old diners closed, one by one. Some became antique shops. Some became nothing at all, just empty buildings with faded signs, ghosts of neon that no longer glowed. But some survived, held on, became landmarks, places people drove out of their way to visit, just to taste that coffee, that pie, that connection to a time when things felt simpler. And if you're lucky, you can still find them, scattered along the back roads, still serving breakfast all day, still calling you hun, still making you feel, for just an hour, like you're part of something. Because the roadside diner wasn't just a place to eat, it was a place to belong, a place to pause, a place to remember that we're all just travelers, moving through this world. And sometimes the best thing we can do is sit down, share a meal, and be human together. So if you grew up in the 1950s, you remember the jingle of the bell, the smell of coffee and bacon, the weight of the ceramic mug in your hands, the way the vinyl squeaked when you slid into the booth. You remember the waitress with tired feet and a genuine smile, the cook who never looked at the order twice, the pie that made everything better. You remember feeling full, not just in your stomach, but in your soul. Because yesterday never truly disappeared. It's still there, waiting in a booth by the window, in a cup of coffee that's always hot, in a slice of pie that tastes like home. All you have to do is pull off the highway, follow the neon glow, open the door, and someone will look up and smile. Sit anywhere you like, hon, and for a moment, you're home again.